Hi there, and welcome to the Fantasy Football League videocast for the Houghton Heroes Fantasy Football League. I'm your host, Dan, and this is the videocast for Week 10. But before we dive into Week 10, something unprecedented has happened in the league this year. 5 teams are now at a record of 4-5 following Week 9 action. That means 7 teams are in the race for only 2 playoff spots. That's right, I'm calling myself and Kavi locks to make the playoffs, even though we are not mathematically into the playoffs yet. But I'm counting on us 2 making the playoffs. That means 7, like I said, teams in the running for 2 playoff spots. That's not counting Simon, sorry, Sacco Perennial. You're in the running, not in the running for the playoffs, but 7 teams at 4-5. That means 4 and 5 teams will play each other only 3 times in the last 4 weeks. A lot of shifting is going to happen, but it will have to happen without a lot of these teams playing each other. That's going to play out very interesting in the next 4 weeks to come. And also, another league note, the trade deadline is November 20th. That is 2 weeks from Wednesday, which is tomorrow. A limited chance to upgrade your team for your playoff run for the 7 teams who are hoping to grab those last 2 spots. So everyone, 2 weeks to upgrade your team. Trade deadline is November 20th. Everyone remember that. In today's videocast, we are going to have playoff predictions from myself, recaps from Week 9, predictions for Week 10, and also, because of the trade deadline, in 2 weeks, I'm going to rank all of our league members in how willing or how easy it is to trade with them, how likely it is to trade with each of these members coming up. But first, let's recap Week 9. And to start off Week 9, we had myself playing in a rivalry match against the diddled Kyle Krem. And this one came down to the wire, definitely. It came down to Monday Night Football, where I had the Bears running back Matt Forte and the Packers wide receiver Jordy Nelson. Now, everyone knows the severity of this matchup, and Kyle was ahead coming into it from a great game from Chris Johnson, 29 points. He scored his only 2 running touchdowns of the year on this game. Like I said, 29 points, and T.Y. Hilton does nothing in the first half of his Sunday night game against Houston, but then blows up for 30 fantasy points, propelling the diddled to 111 points. However, Monday night came around, and Matt Forte definitely made the difference. 23 fantasy points, coupled with the 23 from Jimmy Graham on Sunday, propelled me to 116 points, 5 above Kyle, and finally breaking the schneid of 3 unbeaten games in a row against Kyle, but I finally get the one. I beat Kyle this week. Definitely put me on top in a strong position to make the playoffs now. Kyle moves to 3-5. In another big matchup, we had Drew facing off against the Broodmare Sire and Steve. And this one was important for Drew. He's on a 3-game winning streak at 3-5, trying to make his playoff push. And let's just say we thought this one was going to be a matchup coming in. Drew maybe was the underdog coming into this one, but it definitely didn't play out as much. Strong showing for Drew, 90 points. He gets the win mainly because Aaron Rodgers definitely has problems with his collarbone. He is injured in this game, gets 1 point for Steve, and it definitely hurt, alongside of 0 points from Nate Washington and a -4 from the Colts defense. Not much strong, and we have a record low for points in a week with Steve's 33. Not very much to say about this matchup. It was very one-sided, but the injury to Aaron Rodgers is definitely going to hurt Steve. We'll see how long he is out, but it definitely hurts his playoff chances if he can be out for longer than just this week. The win for Drew, and he moves to 4-5. Simon faced off against Jake, trying to break his losing streak of 6 in a row, and it didn't happen this week. It was really close. Jake got the win by only 5 points. Antonio Brown showed up with 13 points, as well as 16 from the number 1 ranked defense, the Chiefs, for Simon, but that was about it. 1 point from Darren McFadden, and 4 from Alex Smith. Ray Rice continues to disappoint with only 3 fantasy points. Again, didn't help him against Jake, who started another Jake Locker, got him 10 points, as well as James Starks. Not a lot of scoring in this matchup. Again, all under 70 points, which is pretty terrible. But Jake gets the win 64-59. In a battle of top two teams of the division, Kavi was hosting Holly, and needless to say, Kavi crushed her like a grape. The Broncos on bye this week, and it definitely showed with Holly's team. Scoring 126 points, leading the week was Kavi. 16 points from Philin Terrell Pryor, 21 from upstart Gio Bernard. That was a huge game, and also waiver wire pickup extraordinaire Zach Stacy, 29 points, and lost to Tennessee, but definitely helped him beat Holly, who only got 23 points from Adrian Peterson, 13 from Le'Veon Bell, and that was about it. 2 goose eggs on the board for Holly, scored 63 points. It definitely showed the slide is starting. Let's see if it'll continue. Holly with the loss, and Kavi opening up some room at top of the division. And finally, a matchup of teams that are doing pretty well but are probably a little underperforming this year. Carl was hosting Andrew, and Carl got the win this one, 124-102. A very high-scoring affair. Andrew is the no-luck loss here. 19 points from Drew Brees, 21 from Stephen Ridley, finally getting the ball, and he's making the most of it this week. 17 from Pierre Garçon, great game from him, and 13 from Marshawn Lynch. Unfortunately, 40 points from Andre Johnson got the win for the Sacco squad. 18 as well from Phillip Rivers and Alfred Morris definitely made the difference. Despite a 0 from the Eagles defense, he still scores 124 points. Amazing showing. Finally, the firepower is showing from Carl's team. We'll see if he can keep it up. He said it was last time. Let's see if he can now. And a good win for Carl's team. And with that recap of Week 9, that leads us to my playoff prediction for the final 4 games of the season. Like I said, 7 teams in the race for 2 playoff spots, 5 teams actually at 4 and 5. And following are the teams that I think are going to make and not make the playoffs. Starting with Steve, that injury to Aaron Rodgers is going to cripple your team. I feel like now you're going to have to play patchwork at the quarterback, and no one wants to do that. No solid points from your quarterback that you can count on week to week. That's not what a playoff team has on its roster. And because of this injury, and I think he'll be out for quite a while, I think you are out of the playoffs. Next, Holly. You depend way too much on the Broncos. They're a good team, and they have a bunch of veteran players. That means once they get into the playoffs, or once they get close to the playoffs, they're going to rest most of their starters. And little do we know, Peyton Manning is bothered by an ankle injury. He's definitely going to get sit later in the year, and I think this is going to hurt your team. Because of your dependency on the Broncos, I think you're out of the playoffs. Jake, your quarterback and wide receiver situation is just terrible. Because of this, I think you're out of the playoffs. Enough said. Andrew, you can't make the playoffs and have an auto-draft team. I know Holly made the playoffs a couple years ago and won the league with an auto-draft team. I think that the Fantasy Karma guys are going to strike you down, and you will not make the playoffs this year. Kyle, we talked a little bit earlier. You are a game behind the 4 and 5 teams, but you still think you're going to make the playoffs. I don't see this happening. I think you're going to have way too much ground to make up, and I don't think you're going to make the playoffs either. This means the 2 teams that I think will make the playoffs this year are Carl and Drew. Drew, in the beginning of the season, I predicted you would make the playoffs. After your 0-5 start, you've turned it around, have 3 in a row, and I think this continues, and I think you actually overtake Holly and make the playoffs. I also think that Carl is the 4th and final team into the playoffs. I think his team is finally realizing its potential. It's going to start performing like it should, and I think the 2 teams that make the playoffs out of the 7 that are viable right now are Carl and Drew. And now it's time for our weekly interview, and one of the teams that I said would not make the playoffs, Jake, is on the hotline right now. With us here on the Sacco Cream Moisturizing Hotline, the manager of the Caught Red Hernandez, Jake Kempinen. Jake, what's going on?
Hey, not much. Glad to be here.
Obviously, we appreciate you taking time out of your night to join us, but we just got done with our recap, and as I said before, 7 teams are vying for the final 2 playoff spots. 6 are at 4 and 5. You being one of them. How do you like your chances?
I think my chances are pretty good moving forward here. I mean, I had a rough start. I mean, I started out 1-5, but now I've been able to win 3 in a row here, and kind of got myself back in the mix here. Whereas a lot of the other teams seem like they're on a more downward trend. I mean, Kyle's lost a few in a row, and Simon's just never really had a shot here, unfortunately for him. But I'm hoping I can catch up to Andrew now here and move my way into that final playoff spot.
And it's no secret that you are by far the most scrutinized league manager in our league. Do you have anything to say about this? Obviously, you're still in contention for a playoff spot. You are tied for 4th in the league, despite all your moves. What do you have to say to the people who doubt you?
Well, I mean, I think all trades are going to get scrutinized, and I mean, the way I look at it here is, yes, maybe from the outside that some people may not agree with all the trades, but I mean, I'd only make trades that I think give me a good chance of winning here. And so far, I feel like all my trades this year at least have worked out pretty well for my advantage here. Either, if not immediately in the long run here, I've gotten very good production out of everybody I've traded for. And I mean, I'm in not maybe the best position, but in a position to make a late playoff run here, and I think it has a lot to do with these players that I have been able to pick up. So
I see. Now,
yeah,
your 2 out of your next 4 games to end the season are against teams that are under 500. You play Kyle in Week 11, and you play the person you happen to be chasing, Andrew, in Week 12. Do you think that these 2 matchups are going to be for that playoff spot, or do you see them? Do you see one of the 2 dropping out and them kind of being a stepping stone for you into the playoffs?
Oh, good question. I definitely think at least that battle with Andrew. Andrew has got probably one of the best auto-drafted teams I've ever seen. So I think he's definitely going to be a good challenge moving forward here. So, Kyle, I don't know. Kyle, I was very surprised to see how good of a start he came off to. I'm not going to lie, I thought he wasn't going to be as strong of a contender as he's turned out to be, which just goes to prove you always got to be careful of that. But as of right now, I feel like I've got a team that can really compete with them both, and I'm looking forward to trying to prove that and move my way past them.
And as I mentioned before, the trading deadline for our league is in 2 weeks from today, 2 weeks from Wednesday, November 20th. Obviously, which is the theme of the interview, you're fighting for a playoff spot. Do you see yourself making any moves, or is there anybody you're trying to target?
Nobody I'm trying to target specifically at this moment here, but I'm always open for trades, and since everybody thinks that I'm a terrible trader, I'm surprised I haven't gotten more requests for trades at this point here, since I'm apparently good trade bait. So we'll see if that changes in the weeks moving forward as people start getting more desperate for any last-minute ads.
I see. And to finish up here, is there anything you'd like to say to Holly specifically? You took her out this week or last week in the Ginger Cup Bowl. Any smack talk you'd like to say now that you've wrapped that one up?
Oh, not really too much here. I mean, we all know how that went down, and we all know who's the two-time reigning champion of that rivalry here, and I know we let her do a lot of the talking for that, but when it comes down to it there, I'm just going to say, I always enjoy going against Holly because there's always going to be 7 different things she does with her team that I can make fun of. So that's always nice.
I see. Well, Jake, thanks again for joining us here on the program, and good luck in the remaining 4 weeks of the season.
Thanks, you too.
Again, we want to thank Jake for joining us today on the Sacco Moisturizing Hotline. And again, league note, we want to make everyone aware that in 2 weeks on Wednesday, the trade deadline for our league is coming up. That's in 2 weeks. And because of this notification, I am presenting my trade rankings, how likely and how easy it is, the likeliness, you might say, to trade with each owner in the league. And obviously I'm not going to include myself. Everyone knows I'm up for a good trade any day of the week. I'm pretty much the only one I don't want to say pretty much. I text everyone weekly about trades, availability of players. So I'm not going to count myself. So this ranking will be of the top 9. And we're going to start with the number 9. Number 9 is Mr. Benda. Obviously, it's impossible to trade with Benda if anyone has ever tried. He's AWOL all the time, off in the woods somewhere doing woodland stuff. Never answers his phone. He's a very hard man to get a hold of. And because of this, he is number 9 on my list. Moving to number 8 is Holly. Because of her unresponsiveness. She will text you and say that she'll talk to you later about trades. She's busy, she's at school, she's at work. I'll talk to you later, but it never comes. Or she'll just stop in the middle of a conversation and never text you back. That's very hard to do when you're trying to engage in trade negotiations, and because of this, although she actually responds, she doesn't respond enough. She is number 8 in our rankings. At number 7 is Simon. Simon does respond to you on a timely basis, but the problem with Simon is he overvalues his team. He wants a little bit more than what he should, in my opinion, want, and also he only does player-for-player trades. He doesn't do 2 for 1, 3 for 1, 1 for 2. He only wants one player for one player, and as anyone who has ever traded or tried to trade knows, it's very difficult to try and match single players in value, and because of this, Simon is number 7. 6 on our list comes Kavi. Kavi, you're confident in your abilities, and this is no knock on you. You like your team the way it is after your draft, and you like it to stay that way. You do make trades, and you have in the past, but a lot of times you don't because, like I said, you know what you're doing draft day, and you like your team, and as well as your waiver wire strategy. At number 5 is Carl. Carl, you like letting the chips fall where they may with your team. You don't like making a lot of moves outside of the waiver wire. And this is not a bad thing because you're always willing to upgrade your team. You actually agreed once to a trade with me, but upon review we decided not to do it. And because of this, you are number 5. At number 4 is Drew. Drew, outside of a little panic, you like to trade, but now that your team is making a comeback, you're a little bit shy on the trade talks. But you're always willing to upgrade your team as well, and because of this, you actually have made many trades in the past. Because of this, you come in at number 4. At number 3 is Steve, because of your history of trades, and you're also smart about your trades. You're always willing to upgrade your team as well, and you engage in talks frequently, and because of this, you are at number 3. Number 2, Kyle. Your nickname is the Diddler for a reason. You're always talking about trades. You're more than willing to trade. You actually want to diddle people a lot of the time, which means you are a very prevalent trader. And because of this, in your history of trades, you are at number 2. And at number 1, finally, everyone knows, the most likely person to trade in the league besides myself is Jake. If you just look at his history of terrible trades, actually he has a good point. This year his trades have worked out pretty well for him. He's in the playoff hunt despite all of the crow everyone is giving him. But everyone knows he is a trader in our league, and because of this, his reputation, Jake, is number 1 on our trade likeliness ranking. And with that, we want to remind everyone one last time that the trade deadline is in 2 weeks. And that brings us to our Week 10 previews. Now we start hopefully getting some clarity on the playoff situation. And to lead off the week, we have Sacco contenders Kyle facing off against Simon. Simon, I don't think that you're going to win this one. I think your slide is going to continue, and I think Kyle stays in the playoff race. I think Kyle can expect a big game from Maurice Jones-Drew. He's had big games as of late, and I think it continues. Look for Chris Johnson not to continue his hot streak from last week. I think he comes back down to earth as he was before. Demaryius Thomas, I think he's going to have a big game. And Lamar Miller, I also think he's going to have a big game against the defense from Tampa Bay. Look for T.Y. Hilton to have an all-right game. I think defenses are going to focus on him. And I think the Seahawks D are going to take advantage of a depleted Atlanta team in the win. But it's not going to be easy. I think Tony Romo against New Orleans is going to be a shootout, and I think him and Dez Bryant are going to hook up for at least a touchdown, maybe even 2 this week. A lot of points from him. Rashad Jennings filling in for the injured DMC. I think he's going to get a lot of points this week. Pierre Thomas, not sure why you're going to start him, but you are, and I don't think you can expect much from him. Antonio Brown against Buffalo. Not a lot there in the loss for Simon. Next up, we have a battle of playoff contenders in the upstart Andrew Blakes against the falling fast Holly Carrolls. Peyton Yoass Green against Drewby's Pretzel Boys. Holly, ever since you changed your name, you have not done well, and I think it continues this week. I look for Andrew to continue his upswing, and I think he's going to make it to 500 at this point in the year. I think Russell Wilson won't have the best game, but I think Eddie Lacy's going to explode. Aaron Rodgers is out for quite a while, and I think Eddie Lacy's the only offense they're going to have. Look for a double-digit game from him. Ryan Matthews against Denver. I don't look a lot for him, but no Sean Moreno. I do on the other side of the ball. A.J. Green against Baltimore. Playoff implication games for Cincinnati, and I think he's going to play huge. Keenan Allen against Denver. You're talking about garbage time here. Lots of points from Keenan Allen, too. On the opposite side of the ball, Peyton Manning is bothered by an ankle injury. I think it affects him this game, as well as Le'Veon Bell. He's the only offense his team has. Don't look for much against Buffalo. AP against Washington. Had a good game. Eric Decker and Wes Welker. I think one of them is going to score. It's pretty much going to happen with the Denver offense. Somebody's going to get scores. I think one of them does. But I think that's it, and I think Drew gets the win here. He goes to 5-5 and 500 in a game where I can shore up my playoff spot. I play Andrew Benda in this one, and this one, it promises to be a great matchup. However, I don't think that I am going to win. I think Andrew Benda is going to move to 5-5 along with Drew. I think I'm going to drop to 8-2 at Kavi's level because I think Drew Brees is going to blow up against Dallas. I think Marshawn Lynch is going to have an okay game, but look for Danny Woodhead to get in the end zone against Denver in garbage time. I think he has a big game. Pierre Garçon started out with 17 points. Unbelievable game from him as well. Mike Wallace isn't going to do much. He's going to be on Revis Island, but on the other side of the ball, look for Vincent Jackson to score a touchdown. He's been Mike Glennon's favorite receiver, and I think on Monday night they show what they're made of, and I think he scores a touchdown. On the opposite side of the ball, Cam Newton, my quarterback. Let's just start out and say my team is decimated right now. Arian Foster is out for the year, back surgery. That sucks. Jimmy Graham injured. That sucks. Jordy Nelson loses his quarterback. Now no one is going to throw him the ball. That sucks. Because of all these things, and Trent Richardson sucks as well, I don't think I'm going to win. My roster is in way too much turmoil. There's not much to say there. I just don't have a gut feeling. I think Andrew gets the win here, and he inches closer to the playoffs. In a battle of 4 and 5 teams, Steve is playing host to Carl this week, and this one also proves to be a great matchup. Battling each for the playoff, I see Carl coming out with a win in this one, mainly because without Aaron Rodgers, I already said it once, I'll say it again, I think Steve's team is doomed. I'm not sure who he has started to play this week yet, but I think Phillip Rivers is going to have a good game along with Alfred Morris's 13 points. LaShawn McCoy going against Green Bay. I think this one's going to be out of hand for the Eagles, so I think they're going to run a lot, and I think McCoy has a good game. Andre Johnson, 40 points last week. I think he has double digits again this week. And Tony Gonzalez, he didn't do much previously, and I think against Seattle he has a big game. Reggie Bush playing against Detroit. Reggie Bush playing against Chicago for Steve. I think he gets shut down. They really only have 2 weapons. I don't know why no one stops Megatron. Maybe because you can't. And Reggie Bush, you can stop Reggie Bush, and I think they do. I think Kelvin Johnson has a good game because, like I just said, you can't stop him. But that's all I see from Steve, and I think because of this and the loss of Aaron Rodgers, he goes down this week. And finally, we have division leader Kavi playing against the most hated Jake. Jake thinks he has a shot for the playoffs, and he's going to lose this game against Kavi. Kavi is such a good team. Jake, sorry, you're not going to win this one. Chances for the playoff get hurt after this loss, and not much to say there. I just think Kavi's going to win. And that wraps up our Week 10 video cast here for the Houghton Heroes Fantasy Football League. Like I said, the playoff race is heating up, so everyone make sure they have their rosters set if they plan on making the playoffs. If not, trade deadline is in 2 weeks, and waiver wire pickups are always at a premium. Good luck in Week 10. We'll see you back next week. Hopefully some clarity in the playoff race.